Welcome, welcome. I see lots of people joining us today. We are in for a treat, as we like to say. Lots of good things going to happen. Welcome, everyone. If you want to go ahead and drop your location in the chat, we'd love to see where everybody's from. I am here from Quincy, Illinois. My hosts today are here from Indiana. And it looks like we've got Chicago, North Carolina, West Virginia, Indiana, California, Dayton, Wisconsin, Colorado. Man, we are everywhere. We're where you want to be. It's like Visa, right? I love it. I love it. I love it. Keep on coming in. Yeah, drop your city, state, and country in the chat. We'd love to see everyone as we get settled in. So I hope you missed us as much as we missed you. We have not been, we took a couple weeks off, enjoying a little bit of a holiday in between our transition from our previous 2-year-long webinar series into this new one. So the schedule shifted a little bit. If you are not on our mailing list, please drop your email in the chat and we'll make sure that you get all the schedule updates and changes. But we are now jumping into enhancing and empowering conversations for positive change. That is definitely something that this topic that Megan and Patrick are bringing to us is absolutely going to launch us into for this year. So I am excited that they're joining us. Dee, go ahead on with the next slide. And we're going to set these webinars up for success. Obviously, we are all here because we very much want to know how to identify it and how to stay away from it, right? Burnout. It's something we all hear. We all, hear it around the water cooler, maybe with transitions and changes, but it's something that we may not admit about ourselves. So we were kind of talking about that behind the scenes, and I'm excited to navigate this with you all today and to hear the stories and experiences you all bring as Megan and Patrick bring their perspective and their teachings to us. So this is Megan Ripberger. She is from Meso Solutions, and this is a company that they founded out of Indiana. So recognizing that she brings to the table over a decade of work experience in micro, meso, and macro levels of social work. So a lot of our clients and a lot of our friends that join us on webinars are affiliated with social work and people work, right? So we definitely kind of feel what that's like. Megan is committed to finding solutions with diversity and equity in mind. And she's an educator and a leader and holds a master's of social work from Indiana University. So if you all will drop in the chat and welcome Megan and Patrick to us and with us today, that would be great. I'm Karina and I work with Be Strong Families. I'm currently in the marketing department and loving sharing what we have to offer with you all. You can go ahead. There's a couple ways that you can engage. A lot of you have already found the chat, so thank you for that. Throughout the day, there's going to be a few questions or comments that you want to bring to the table, bring to Megan and Patrick. So if you will do the raise hand button, it should be at the bottom bar, or if you're on a mobile device, it's usually the 3 dots and hit more. You can raise hand, and then at that point, Dee can call you to unmute, and you can speak out and bring your question. The other way you can do that is drop it in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat. So Megan, I will bring those questions to you as you are ready for them, and make sure it's marked for everyone. We wanted to make sure that everyone gets to see and hear and interact and engage together. And be patient because it might be a really hot topic. And so she might have a lot to bring, and there's a lot of questions. So we want to make sure that we get to navigate all of that well together in this hour that we have. Go ahead, Dee. And last but not least, we have a few agreements. These are foundational for the spaces that we create with Be Strong Families. We want to be able to create a safe and a brave space. And that means that it may be hard and it may be uncomfortable, but we want to ask you to lean into it anyway. You've already made the first step. You're here. And so we want to make sure that we acknowledge that. So when you're asking questions, bringing conversations up, all of us are going to speak from our own experience. We use those I statements. We do follow the golden rule. So we want to treat other people the way you want to be treated, or treat others the way treat yourself the way you want to be treated too as well, right? Full presence, please no multitasking. We do want your attention. Megan and Patrick are taking their time and energy to be with us. We want to honor them by being present. And if you need a minute, take a minute. Sometimes things get hard and heavy, or we're triggered or activated in ways that we weren't expecting. And so please take a minute, step away, grab a drink of water, do what you need to do and come right back. If you want to push into it a little bit further, you can private message me in the chat if you need support, or we can always give you contact information to follow up with as well. So if you can do me a favor and type agree in the chat to make sure that we are all in agreement, I will do that as well. So that way we are all here. I am seeing that flying in. Thank you all. Thank you so much. And Dee, I'm going to hand it off to Megan.
Thank you so much, Karina. Like Karina said, my name is Megan Ripberger, and I am co-founder and helper with Meza Solutions. Meza Solutions exists to provide simple approaches to wellness to communities and organizations. And we do that through workshops, online education, and meeting solutions. So as you all know, we are here to talk about burnout. But before we jump in, I would like us all to participate in a progressive muscle relaxation. So if you're not familiar with progressive muscle relaxation, it's an exercise that can help you reduce stress and anxiety in your body by having you slowly tense and relax muscles from head to toe. So something to keep in mind during this exercise, like I said, we're going to be tensing our muscles, but you don't want to tense to the point of strain. So we don't want to cause any pain. If you have any areas in your body that maybe don't feel good already, you can skip over those areas. Really make sure that it's working for you. So as we're going along, pay special attention to the feeling of tensing and releasing, noticing that difference there, and we're going to jump in. So first, find a comfortable position. Many of you are maybe sitting in seats, maybe you're somewhere else. Find a comfortable position where you feel supported. You can shut your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so, or you can find a space to maybe gently gaze at. So begin by taking a deep breath and notice the filling of air in your lungs. And hold that breath for a few seconds. Release the breath slowly and notice the tension starting to leave your body. Take in another deep breath and hold. Again, slowly release the air. Now slowing down even more, take another breath. Fill your lungs, hold that breath. Now slowly release that breath and imagine that feeling of tension starting to leave your body even more. Now we're going to move attention to our feet. Begin by tensing your feet up, by curling your toes and curling up the arch of your foot, and hold on to that tension and just take a moment to notice what it feels like in your feet as they're tense. Now release that tension in your foot. Notice how it's starting to feel more relaxed in your body. Now moving up, begin to focus on your lower leg. Tense the muscles in your lower leg, and you can do this by pointing your toes up or maybe even your heels up. Hold the muscles tightly. Pay attention to the feeling of tension without creating any pain or strain. Now release that tension from your lower legs. Again, notice that feeling of relaxation setting in. Remember as we're going along to continue taking those deep breaths. Next, we're going to focus on moving up to our upper leg and our pelvis and our bottom. Focus on tightly squeezing your thighs together or squeezing your bottom. Notice the tension without going to the point of strain. Hold that tension. And with a breath out, release. Feel the tension starting to leave the muscles in your lower body. Now we're going to move up to your stomach. Pull your stomach in. Notice those muscles squeezing and hold that tension. Now, breathing out, releasing that tension. Let your body start to go limp and relax. Let yourself notice that feeling of relaxation setting in. Continue taking deep breaths, breathing in slowly, noticing the air filling your lungs, and then releasing. Next, we're going to focus on our upper back and our lower back. And you can focus on bringing that tension in by bringing your shoulders behind you. You might even move your arms, puff your chest out, and really tense up your back. Tense as much as you can without strain, and keep holding. And then release, just letting your shoulders fall, noticing that relaxation building in your body. Now focusing on your upper body, your shoulders, your neck, and your face, letting yourself be vulnerable here, pulling your shoulders up, tensing the muscles in your face, like scrunching your face. Hold and relax. Now, focusing on our whole body. At this point, you might notice a lot of tension has been released and replaced with relaxation. But we're going to focus on a whole body tension. So again, focusing on feet, lower legs, upper body, our neck and our head, pulling in a comfortable yet tense way. And breathing out and releasing. And we're going to take a moment just to notice and bring our attention to that feeling of relaxation, and notice how different it is from feeling that tension. Maybe that was the tension we were already carrying, or maybe that was the tension from us purposefully tensing our muscles. But just taking a mindful notice of how our body feels. Now, taking some time to begin to wake up our body by slowly moving our muscles. So you might start by wiggling your toes, maybe moving your legs back and forth, maybe even like gently swaying, moving your fingers, moving your neck, adjusting your arms and legs, getting in a nice stretch, and slowly opening your eyes or bringing your gaze back when you feel ready. So thank you all for participating in that. And I chose to start off with an exercise because this is going to tie into what we're talking about with burnout. So moving along to our next slide. We are going to be talking about what burnout means. In order to do this, we're going to cultivate a shared understanding of what burnout is, because I don't know about you all, but I hear about burnout a lot. I hear about in conversation, I read about it. And when something is so common, it's really easy for us to have our own understanding of what that thing is. So we're going to take some time to gain a shared understanding, and then we're going to look at what it looks like in action. So we're going to look at the history of burnout. And from there, we're going to look at what it could look like if you are feeling burned out, or if you're in the life of someone who might be experiencing burnout. And to wrap up, we're going to explore some ways that you can support your mental health by using self-care to decrease or even prevent some of the effects of burnout. So on our next slide, we are going to see our overview that I skipped ahead on. So as you see here, this is what we're going to be talking about: exploring the history of burnout, discussing what burnout looks like, and then learning to use self-care to support yourself if you feel like you might be experiencing the symptoms of burnout. Moving ahead, with all the talk about burnout in recent years, it's really not surprising that there can be a lot of confusion about what burnout is and what it's not. And we're going to start here. So as I was talking, you might have noticed that there were all these pop-ups on the screen, and this really represents just a very, very small fraction of information that you might find if you go and search burnout right now. And if you're like me, that might be something that you do. You hear about something, you want to know more about it. Maybe you do a Google search, maybe you read an article. There's so much information. And while that can be helpful with so much information, there's so much information, and that can be very overwhelming. So we're going to start by looking at that foundational level, the history of burnout. And in our next slide, you might be very interested to know that burnout, well, it's something we talk about a lot now. The concept is actually about 50 years old. So here on the screen, we have two psychologists, Herbert Freudenberger and Christina Maslach. Herbert Freudenberger is a psychologist. Christina Maslach is a social psychologist, and they are really coined as the two first researchers that were looking at the concept of burnout. Freudenberger is credited for first creating the clinical concept of burnout. He did a lot of work in his profession in free clinics and therapeutic communities. And when he was working with the providers in those communities, he noticed a pattern. He described burnout as a state of mental and physical exhaustion caused by one's professional life. Maslach is actually originally known for persuading investigators leading the Stanford prison experiment to end the experiment after 6 days. Her experiment, or her experience with that experiment being alongside, helped shape her interest in burnout, and she sees it as a response to unavoidable stress. So here we have her definition. Burnout is a psychological syndrome involving emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and a diminished sense of personal accomplishment that occurred among various professionals who work with other people in challenging situations. And if you're familiar with the Stanford prison experiment, that was definitely a very challenging situation. So moving on, learning more about burnout. To date, you might be surprised to know that even though burnout was first coined in the 70s, there's no universally accepted definition of burnout. Burnout is included in the International Classification of Diseases. ICD-11 is the most recent. The ICD is a global standard for diagnostic health information, and it's maintained by the World Health Organization. So in the ICD-11, burnout is listed not as a diagnosis, but as an occupational phenomenon. And that means that it could lead someone to seek care, but it's not considered a medical condition in and of itself. According to the World Health Organization, burnout is characterized by 3 different things. Number 1, feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion. Number 2, increased mental distance from one's job or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job. And number 3, reduced professional efficacy. So I feel like I've said a lot. I have provided a lot of words at you all. I want to take a pause here. So let's take a moment to discuss what burnout could look like in the life of someone who thinks that they may be experiencing burnout, or even in the life of someone who is in that life with someone who might be experiencing burnouts, like friends, family, coworkers, that type of thing. So thinking about what we talked about with burnout so far, thinking about the criteria, how do you think burnout could affect people within the workplace? What could that look like? And if you have any thoughts, definitely use that raise your hand, or you can provide your feedback in the chat. But what are your thoughts on that? How could that affect the workplace?
I'll read from the chat for you, Megan. But lack of
Awesome.
motivation to complete tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree, Amy. I think the other thing that happens is overload on coworkers. If you're not completing yours, then somebody's got to do it. Or plan B is somebody is avoiding, so there may be excessive absences. Anyone else have anything they want to bring up? This doesn't admit that you are experiencing burnout, but maybe that you're learning about what it could look like.
Definitely. Yeah.
Questioning self about choice to do or work. So there's self-doubt, compassion fatigue, lots of sick time or personal time off. When you're autistic, you experience burnout all the time. Exhaustion, feeling no progress, exhausting feeling. Yeah.
Thank you all so much for providing your thoughts. And like Karina said, this is definitely not a what are you experiencing, but just taking that theoretical walk and saying, what could this look like based on what the World Health Organization has outlined? So I have two more questions thinking about this and just starting to get all of us in that frame of mind of thinking about it. How do you think the signs of burnout, those criteria, could affect families? So as you were saying, in the workplace, it could lead to, if this is my responsibility and I'm feeling burnout, I might not be able to do it, which means someone else has to do it. It can lead to me not feeling like I'm very effective. What could that look like when that is within our family setting?
I'll fill in the gap. Personal confession. That's when I hit the drive-through. Like, I'm just like, nope, I am not here for cooking dinner, but y'all get food.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
That is a realistic personal one. Bringing some of that negative energy home without realizing it. Thank you, Dee, for that. More reactive than responsive reactions. Yes, doing the bare minimum. Withdrawal due to shame or lack of energy, not wanting to bring others down. Absolutely. I become the not fun parent.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And just jumping in, as you all are saying, that could lead us to go against those goals that we have set for ourselves or our families. And that ties into my last question. How might those signs of burnout affect how people see themselves? And you all, through looking at the workplace and families, kind of already touched on this. If I have a goal to maybe stay on budget with grocery shopping, and this is really speaking from personal experience, honestly, you have a budget. You want to say, I'm going to spend this much money on the household food, and then I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling lethargic, and we'll talk more about what burnout looks like, but I might find myself saying, I only have the energy to grab fast food. While I got a meal, I might be really down on myself, and that can be looked at as, man, like I really messed up.
Absolutely. There's a couple to coordinate along with that: isolation, negativity, failure. Yeah, totally. I get that.
Yeah. Thank you all again for your thoughts, and just being willing to be vulnerable and put those thoughts out there. So moving along, we took some time to make our best guesses about what burnout could look like in action based on what we know about the World Health Organization criteria. And now we're going to look a little bit more closely, take that high level, more personal view of what it could look like in the life of someone who is experiencing burnout. So we're going to start by looking at what it can look like from the perspective of someone who's in the life of someone. So as you see here, a look at burnout outside looking in. So this would be, maybe I'm in a position where one of my family members, coworkers, friends is exhibiting some of these signs. What might I see? So I might see exhaustion. So people who are burnout might present as perpetually exhausted. People who are affected by burnout might feel drained, unable to cope, tired, down. They might feel like they never have enough energy. They might even experience physical symptoms like pain and gastrointestinal problems like stomach aches, bowel issues. People who are burnout might seem disconnected from their job and those that they work with. People who have burnout find that their jobs might feel increasingly stressful and frustrating. They might be more cynical about working conditions. They might be more cynical about colleagues. And at the same time, they might distance themselves emotionally and feel numb about the work that they're doing. In our last category, we're looking at reduced performance. So people who are burned out might seem like they're struggling with meeting their full potential. And what I'm saying here is really speaking to maybe you had someone who was like a star performer on the team, and then all of a sudden that looks completely different. So burnout affects everyday tasks. And we're talking about work, but this is also at home. This is also caring for family members. People with burnout might feel very negative about the things that they once enjoyed. They might find it hard to concentrate, and they may lack creativity. They just don't have that spark that they once had. Now, looking at the next slide, let's look at what burnout can look like from that first person perspective. So looking at, if I am experiencing burnout, what am I noticing about myself and maybe even the world around me? How is that impacting my lens? So our first category, looking at physical signs. So if I'm experiencing burnout, I might perpetually feel tired and drained, no matter how much sleep, no matter how much rest I get. I might have lowered immunity. I might notice that I'm getting sick all the time. I'm just not feeling my best. I might have a lot of headaches or muscle pain. I might even have changes in my appetite or my sleep habits. Emotionally, I'm going to notice it too. I might notice that I just consistently am feeling like I'm failing. I feel like a failure. I feel like I'm not doing enough. I might struggle with a lot of self-doubt, feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, feeling trapped. I might feel detached from others, but also myself. I might even be in that place where I say, I don't even know myself anymore. And I might lack satisfaction and a sense of accomplishment with the things that I am doing. Our last category, looking at behavioral signs and symptoms, I might withdraw from responsibilities that I've agreed to. I might isolate myself. I might procrastinate. It might take me a lot longer to get things done than it used to. I might find myself using food, drugs, or alcohol to cope. I might be a little on edge and take my frustrations out on others. I might even skip work or come in late and leave early. So in that position, there are a lot of things that I might notice as a clear indicator if there's something going on. So thinking more deeply about this information, how do you all think these factors related to burnout can impact individual and family wellness? I know we theorized before, but now looking at it and taking it all in, how could that make an impact on our individual and family wellness?
Yeah, please drop those in the chat, or you're welcome to raise your hand and respond. I think for me, I recognize just hearing you talk layer by layer was the chain of events. So if I'm detaching or I'm stepping away or I'm sick, that may impact financially. It's going to impact relationships. It's going to impact how fast you cycle back. There's going to be layers of things you have to peel back to be able to show up how you want to, or find refreshment from this. Anyone else
So
have
true.
thoughts? I think it's sitting heavy with everyone.
And it's something that it can be important to let it simmer and really think about what does that look like? Because like you said, it's layers.
Mhm.
So maybe something to sit on and think about. So moving forward, as we discuss what we might see when we are interacting with someone who is experiencing the symptoms of burnout or even experiencing it ourselves, it is really important to touch on the similarities between the presentation of burnout and the diagnosis of major depressive disorder as outlined in the DSM. So the DSM is that manual that many providers utilize to look at clinical mental health diagnoses. Also, going back to the World Health Organization criteria we looked at, so you have that here on the side under burnout, feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced confidence and ability to perform and reach goals, which can speak to professional efficacy. And thinking back on the last two slides that we've looked at with what does it look like if you're outside or in that experience, you might see that there's a lot of overlap with major depressive disorder, or MDD as it may be called, or just depression. So it's important to know that while there is overlap, depression is not considered the same as burnout. People with burnout don't always have depression, but burnout can increase the risk of developing depression. So if you think that you are experiencing depression, or you may have been diagnosed with depression, but you're struggling alone with your symptoms, or you want to address any other experience related to mental illness, definitely reach out to your providers. So reach out to your primary care provider, local mental health system, your local health department. If you're not sure how to get linked with help, because that in itself can be an intimidating process, please reach out. You are welcome to reach out to me. I will provide my information at the end here. I would assume it would be okay to reach out to the hosts as well, based on what was being discussed earlier. So there's a community here of people that you can reach out to. Reach out, get linked, and get connected to those resources that would be beneficial.
For sure. Megan, real quick, somebody's got their hand up.
Yes.
If you can invite Chandra to speak out. Chandra, if you can unmute your mic, we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, I just had a quick question. So like, and you may get to this later in your presentation, do you come back from burnout? Like, I feel like sometimes it's just like, okay, if you burn out, can you come back from that? Like, or are you just burned out for the rest of your life?
That's a great question. And I think that is definitely one of those like case by case, but there is evidence that people can come back from burnout. I mean, thinking about that, I think that when we have life experiences such as burnout, as other experiences, we grow around that experience. And what I mean by that is we may have that experience of burnout, and then we grow to incorporate maybe new strategies that we utilize cognitively, behaviorally, and those strategies can really help us start to decrease those effects of burnout. So I would say, yes, you come back from burnout, and it's important to think about what that looks like on a case by case basis.
We have a second hand raised. Lawan, if you want to go ahead and unmute.
I think that one of the things, like I typed into the chat, that stands out is the scary part is not really knowing or noticing these signs that's shared, because we might say, oh, my stomach hurt, or I feel exhausted, or maybe blaming on our age or some other thing that may be happening, but not noticing is kind of scary if you don't know or recognize the symptoms of burnout. And just being tired of it, because especially dealing with social services field, it's a lot that we do and we don't really even, be like, okay, maybe I'll go sleep early. That don't work out. So we don't really look at it as burnout. We don't notice the attitude shift, and not understanding that mental health and self-care is so important in this line of work.
So true. Thank you so much. Yeah. So very, very spot on. And moving ahead to the next slide, I feel like that definitely ties in here. And just another reminder to start with your providers, because as was just discussed, we might say, oh, maybe it's just a phase. And then a phase turns into every day. And when we're used to something that is at the forefront of our mind, at the forefront of our experience, it just becomes normalized. So if you do have those concerns, if you do think, I think there may be something going on, start with your providers. Making sure that you're connecting with, like I said, primary care provider, specialist, therapist, whoever that might be, taking that time to connect, because burnout does mirror other health experiences such as depression, as we talked about. It's so important to talk with healthcare providers about your experience and get a clear understanding of what you are experiencing. So if you're in doubt, you have concerns, start with your provider. So looking at addressing burnout, we'll first look at some of the causes, because if we're looking at addressing something, it's important to understand where it could be coming from. So you can really create a program, a process that works best for you. So as we see here, a person with burnout might experience work-related causes of burnout, lifestyle causes of burnout, and there can be some personality traits that could be linked to a higher likelihood of developing burnout. But first, starting with those work-related causes of burnout, those can include feeling like you have little to no control over your work. Maybe you are not getting recognition or reward for good work. You might have unclear or overly demanding job expectations, or maybe you're doing work that's really monotonous and unchallenging. Also, looking at the other end, maybe you're doing work that is really chaotic and high pressure. Maybe the environment is high pressure. Looking at those lifestyle factors, that can include working too much, not having enough time for socialization or relaxation, having a lack of close supportive relationships, taking on too many responsibilities in your personal life, maybe not having enough help, maybe not asking for enough help, or not getting enough sleep. And these, as I'm going through this, these are definitely not exhaustive. There are many other things that can tie into all of these, but these are just to give you all some ideas of what these can look like. Our last category, those personality traits. People who experience burnout may have the following personality traits, including perfectionistic tendencies, feeling like nothing is ever good enough, which leads to more work, more effort, more energy expended. People who share a pessimistic view of themselves and the world might be more likely to develop burnout. The need to be in control can lead to the development of burnout, because what happens there? Maybe you're reluctant to delegate to others. So while maybe you could be focusing on 5 tasks, you're focusing on 10 because you just want to make sure that it is the best. Also, research shows that people with high achieving type A personalities might be more likely are more at risk to develop burnout. So looking at our next slide, we'll talk more about kind of where we are and where we're going as kind of like a pause. So to effectively prevent or deal with burnout, you have to know what can lead to it. So we have discussed the signs of burnout. We looked at the criteria. We talked about how burnout can affect people in multiple life domains, and it can be observed from those outside of the people who are experiencing burnout. So in the final part of our gathering, we're going to talk about how to use some self-care techniques to prevent and maybe even treat the signs and symptoms of burnout. So looking ahead, looking at self-care as a concept in our next slide. So self-care can be thought of as a foundation to wellness. So you have this image on your screen with self-care, primary, secondary, tertiary. Self-care is thought of as that foundation of healthcare, and it's something that we can do within a health and social care system, but also outside of a social care and healthcare system. Self-care constitutes activities that individuals, families, and communities can do independent of or with health systems to enhance health, prevent disease, limit illness, and restore health. So just putting it simply, self-care means taking the time to do things that help you live well and help you improve your overall health. Small acts of self-care can have a huge impact. I always say that small steps lead to big changes. So if you're taking time to, for example, socialize, that can give you that boost that maybe helps you feel a little less stressed throughout the day. So moving forward and gaining an understanding of how self-care fits into a treatment and prevention plan, let's first gain a shared understanding of what self-care is. Like I was talking about earlier with burnout, you might hear a lot about self-care, and depending on where you hear about self-care, it may be thought of in different ways. So here on the screen, I have a definition from the World Health Organization, and this is one of the most universally accepted definitions of self-care. Self-care is what people do for themselves to establish and maintain health and to prevent and deal with illness. It is a broad concept encompassing hygiene. This can be general hygiene, personal hygiene, nutrition, which can include what you're eating and the quality of food you're eating, lifestyle, which can include being active in sports or leisure, environmental factors such as your living conditions, your social habits, socioeconomic factors, including income level, and cultural beliefs and self-medication. The World Health Organization's definition prompted the International Self-Care Foundation to create a framework for self-care that we can use to visualize and better understand what all goes into self-care. And we have an image of that on the next slide. So as you see here, there are 7 pillars as defined by the ISF, or the International Self-Care Foundation. Pillar 1, health literacy. This focuses on your personal knowledge and understanding of what health is, what disease is, and what self-care means. Pillar 2 encompasses mental well-being, self-awareness, and agency. And simply put, this is just understanding your needs and being able to take action based on the health knowledge that you have. So they really build on each other. Pillar 3 looks at physical activity. This is not only engaging in physical activity, but understanding how to safely engage in physical activity, why it's important to engage in physical activity, and knowing what physical activity is best for you, because we are all individuals with individualized needs. Our next pillar, healthy eating. This is looking at how diet plays into self-care. Again, we're individuals. We have individual needs. My needs are not going to be the same as your needs or the next person's needs. So it's important for us to understand what our healthy eating needs are. Pillar 5 looks at risk avoidance or mitigation. And this is simply being able to have that understanding of what health risks exist and how to avoid those. Pillar 6, good hygiene. This is understanding how to maintain a hygiene routine that works for you, that helps you reduce hygiene-related health risks. And our last pillar, pillar 7, rational and responsible use of self-care products and services. This encompasses knowing how to use products. So this could look like knowing how to take your medication properly as prescribed by your provider, or any other type of responsible use of those products that help you feel your best. And with Meso Solutions, we have focused on creating self-care guidelines and materials that condenses this information down. And we recognize 5 areas as outlined on our self-care assessment that we will jump into in our next slide. I may have fibbed on that, because I didn't know. Okay. So to this point, before I get ahead of myself, we've learned that burnout has a strong, pervasive impact on one's life. And this can be due to many reasons. And there are some helpful things that you can do to address feeling burned out. The Meso Solutions self-care assessment can help you understand how you've been taking care of yourself. And that self-care assessment can be utilized by scanning the QR code here on the screen or going to the link at the bottom, www.mesosolutions.com/self-care. And this is available for download for free. The tool is broken down into 5 areas of wellness, and I believe we have an image of that on our next slide. So you can kind of get a sneak peek at what that looks like. So this is the front page of that self-care assessment. And as you see, the first self-care area you see is physical. On the rest of the slides, the pages of the self-care assessment, you'll see physical, psychological, and emotional self-care, social self-care, spiritual self-care, and professional self-care. So to use this tool, you start on page 1. Review the explanation to help you get acquainted to what the tool is looking at. And then working from the first area of wellness, which is physical self-care, to the last area of wellness, use the rating scale that's in that orange to help you provide a score that indicates how well or how often you're engaging in those activities. So the rating scale has flexible language to help you find the best score for each area. A rating of 1 indicates a clear need. So that would be, I'm not doing this often, or it's something that I didn't think about doing. And a rating of 3 means there's a strength there. It's something you do very well. Maybe you do it very often. Maybe it's part of your daily routine. So if you check that out, that would be something that I would suggest, and I'll talk more about this, is the call to action. But this could be a really great first step, because like we talked about with burnout, there are many different factors. And if we are not taking that time to decompress after stressful situations, or even giving ourselves a pat on the back, we're going to be increasing our likelihood of developing burnout. And like I said earlier, small steps lead to big changes. So on to our next slide. Like I was saying, that call to action. So what do you do with all of this? One thing that I would encourage you all to do is continue on with your self-care. As we started off today with the self-care activity, I encourage you all to continue engaging in self-care activities. Maybe even make some time today to download the self-care assessment and complete it to get an idea of what your self-care looks like right now. And think about continuing your wellness effort. Maybe set a wellness intention. Set an intention for yourself that you're going to focus on daily, weekly, monthly, whatever that looks like. You're welcome to explore resources that are on the Meso Solutions website. We have a feel-good portal that includes courses that you can access at your own pace, learn more about burnout, learn more about self-care, and maybe get some ideas of things you can do to take care of yourself. And moving on. Thank you all for participating and being here today. As I said, if you're having concerns about how you've been feeling, or maybe you have concerns about people in your life, reach out to our hosts here. You're also welcome to reach out to me. It's important to utilize community when that community is available.
Absolutely. The last comment I want to read in the chat, Megan, I think it was to your last slide, says therapy is the best self-care for me. It's so beneficial to talk to someone who specializes in mental health and can help you work through burnout, depression, anxiety, etc. Teach you the correct coping mechanisms and teach you your triggers and how to respond instead of react. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. And everyone, if we can just give Megan a round of applause. Thank you for what you brought today. I know somebody said it in the beginning. Thank you for starting our day off in that meditative moment, in that kind of self-awareness inventory, just to be able to slow down. I mean, if that was my one self-care for the week, I'm going to take it. That was powerful. Thank you for the information. Anybody have any questions or comments that they want to bring up to the to Megan or to Patrick as we kind of wrap up our session today? Feel free to raise your hand or drop it in the chat. There are several thank yous and valuable information. Applause. Great job. Will you have another webinar like this? Always. Yes. Please do put that on the poll. Dee, if you want to drop that poll, we can, that's something that we can absolutely request. And then Dee, if you want to work through the last set of slides, I will wrap us up today. So what's next? The poll that is on your screen right now, you can go ahead and take advantage of that. Help us help you bring the information that you want to hear, that you want to know, that you need in your life, in your work, in your family. We do have Taste of Cafes. If you've never been to a cafe, I love it. I was talking with Megan and Patrick before we started. They are familiar with cafes. So definitely a space that we call it therapizing, right? So it's a little bit of therapy without going, to be able to build that community. It's a form of self-care. So we do host those on Fridays at noon. They're about an hour and a half. And there is a couple different topics that are coming out. So you can jump on our website, scan the QR code, either way, check those out. We also have started this semester, this year, we are hosting them also on Wednesday evening. So if Friday at lunchtime does not work for you, we also do have a Wednesday evening one. So that's a brand new session. It will be a duplicate of one of the Fridays. So if you want that topic, but you can't make one of them, maybe try the other one. We also have the next webinar will be A Sunken Place, Overcoming Midlife Crisis in Marriage. And Sarita Sashington will be hosting that. That is based on a book that she has written. So that I'm excited to share space with her on that. Go ahead and swap to the next slide. And join our YouTube community. I know personally, I'm going to go bookmark this one because I'm going to want absorbing so much information. I want to make sure that I go through, watch it again, listen again while I'm driving and absorb more of it, right? So be able to put this into practice. Like we said, it's not perfection, but it is progress. So being able to put some of these tips and tidbits. And I think the other thing is the awareness as we are interacting with people at work, at home, at, hobbies, at church, at whatever, being able to recognize when others may need our support or knowledge that we can share with them about burnout. That is a powerful tool. So you can jump onto YouTube. You can bookmark this video. You can go ahead and subscribe and watch our others. That link is also in the chat if you need that. Do you go ahead to the next one? And if you're looking for more tools and resources, I know that Megan said they have things available on their website. We also have our Be Strong Family shop. So if you're looking for tools that you can utilize for the work that you do, or if you are looking for tools for your family, we have different games and parent engagement tools that are can be powerful if used in the right way. So do check those out. Reach out to me personally if you've got questions. You can drop a message here or get in touch with me on our website. Anything else, Dee, as we wrap up? We want to thank you always, first and lastly. We want to thank you for joining us. You have become a powerful community for us with Be Strong Families and for each other over the last couple of years. And so for that, we are grateful. Thank you for taking time for yourself today. Thank you for taking time for each other, what you shared. And we continue to grow this year under enhancing and empowering conversations for positive change. I am thinking that's it. So if you filled out the poll, and I didn't see any additional questions and anything come up for you all. Again, lots of thank yous, Megan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They enjoyed their session. And that is all we have for today. So we will see you next time. Until then, practice some self-care. Bye-bye.